All right, here's the 1968 Dodge Dart. It's actually a GTS 3D3 car originally. It's been in here for several years waiting for progress. We're in the middle of tearing it in half. This was somewhat of a drag car when I acquired it, and we are undoing that. The probably would have left it, but it wasn't done well. Those are stock frame rails, narrowed in from the original location, much like you would do a back half, but again with stock rails. So if you can see straight ahead, the jack is right underneath where the frame should come out. It's been moved over at some time in the past, obviously at a spring location as well. Was on a ladder bar system, which the cross member is still up in there. So structurally it was a mess, no cage, not well tied together with the inner structure, which is now, all the sheet metal is torn apart, but there's some tube structure that was put in there in an attempt to make that satisfactory, but had this ran a good quarter mile, I don't think it would have lasted well. And beyond that, it was taken apart with an air chisel, I think, before. At any rate, here we are, getting ready to fix the inner door structure on the quarter windows there, and on both sides. There's very little rust in the car prior to this. I think it's been a tubbed car for many, many years. Probably not driven many of those years, however. But when they did all that, the package tray and those inner structure, well, all of the inner structure there needs to be replaced. So in order to do that, we have a donor. And really the donor was just picked up in order to get a good template. It turns out the frame rails are really nice on it. So I think the plan is now, of course, use all the package tray and inner structure where it's been cut off. There's enough there to mend back in, and then set the frame rails in place. Of course, this floor will be all gone, so with that out of the way, but for we'll leave the I guess the footwell pan in place. So that's actually the front of the seat pan. So we'll leave some of that in place anyway in order to locate everything that's coming over. And once we get the frame rails in the proper spot, this floor will be then cut out and replaced. But trying to not undo the template before we get there, but getting enough out of the way in order to make it happen. So we got a little more cutting to do here, and we'll go from there. This car also has skins on the quarters where that line is ground off there. They basically, on that top body line, welded on a replacement panel and a rocker cover as well, just in order to make up for where it was tubbed, and had 3113s on it. So they widened the wheel wells with the replacement panel, but left everything underneath it. So a little counterintuitive if we're going drag racing with all that extra weight. We've already cut the other side off. We can see where they've hacked the what was underneath. A little bit of rust on the rockers there and the inner rocker. We'll take care of that after we get the main structure done. Ultimately ending with new quarters, then engine and all the rest. The actual structure of the car in front of all this is pretty darn good. Typical older Mopar that's got a little bit of rust here and there, but overall the front frame rails and inner fenders, etc., are in good shape. Interior, it's got, I think, 1970 seats in it, so we'll fix all that up when we get to it. Fairly crude project for someone in the past. If you look close at the welds, if you can see them, leave something to be desired. So we'll get all that nastiness out of the way. The original torque boxes for the big black car are still up in there. I'm hoping to get everything detached from there, possibly save those. They're not rusty, but they have a lot of metal to be cut off of them yet, so we'll see. And when we get to this half, we have good inner structure on the doors. Actually, it's too bad the seat pan's in really good shape, but for just on the back side of the hump. So a little bit of rust there, so it will require replacement, but luckily we have all the inner structure, which in a unibody car is critical. So we'll get that fixed up and move forward. More to come. All right, now we're looking at some still photos that were taken over the years, a little bit earlier than the video that I started with here, but just to show the car as it came into the shop after I acquired it. You can see the 3113 slicks sitting on welds. If you know darts, that tire doesn't fit in a stock wheel well, so that quarter was flared a little bit there in the wheel well opening. A little shot from behind. Bumpers in pretty darn good shape. Everything above the belt line is in pretty darn good shape as well. But you can see, you know, the fender, of course, a little work there. I'll probably be able to save that fender, both front fenders for that matter. Has a fiberglass hood that's not attached. There's actually a flat dart hood under there. The GTS hood is gone, so I'll eventually end up with a good GTS hood and probably hang that fiberglass hood on the wall. There's a little red sitting underneath it in storage for where they sit for most of the time, and a couple good shots of engine bay. Inner fender's good. Firewall's good. You can see where I was. They went to patch like a teenager building a drag car. Covered up every hole from the wiper motor to the battery tray to you name it. Further pics of underneath, showing what was there. Nice 8 3/4 with Moser axles, 486 gears. Not done terribly as far as the axle itself goes, spool, but as described in the video, just quite a hack job of the frame rails and the way it was tied together. It's not that that's never been done, but the welding and the fact that it really wasn't tied to the front of the frame rails. It's where they were cut anyway. It wasn't tied together real well. All right, this is just a quick video of some of the cross bracing going in. This has been about a year ago probably, somewhere around there. At any rate, trying to get some of the B-pillar here, and ultimately, hopefully I show it in some future videos of the extent to where it got braced up. I believe I do. A little amateur video here, so everything's kind of hit and miss and out of order, and any of you that have tried to put these together probably understand that. But at any rate, we'll put a couple braces here on the B pillar toward the C pillar. Really stop short of where everything's cut out in the wheel well area. The new wheelhouse is going in. I've got to section in that window regulator inner structure for the quarter windows there. There's about an inch missing there, which I'll show in a future video. It's kind of where we're at right now, just to try to get all that squared up. At any rate, I'll try to fast forward through some of this so you don't just watch me
play with sticks of metal and not really get anywhere. But at any rate, that's what's going on here. I'll eventually have a brace at the A pillar as well, and from the A to B, kind of tying the door structure together. The doors are still on the car and shut while I'm welding the A to B together. The way I have it braced up, nothing has moved at all relative to that. I've left the quarters on it purposefully as I repair all this inner structure. There'd be a couple spots where the C-pillar structure comes down to meet the top of the outer wheelhouse. That will get finish welded when I'm get the quarters off of it, but until then we'll have that tacked on the outside and likely a couple screws going through until that point. But I'll show that in a couple future videos, a little more detail on that. This is also a good quick look at the interior. I don't think I previously described it. It's obviously automatic on the floor. It has an aftermarket, I guess, Mr. Gasket or something. I don't know, some shifter I'm going to throw away. But they messed up the console pretty well. But nonetheless, 68 console car. All of the inner door panels are in terrific shape. Actually has a nice recover on the back seat, and I think there's 70 front seats, which we'll switch for 68s when the time is right. Yeah, anyway, a little bit of progress here on the interior structure as we cut it apart further. Until next time, thanks.
Close enough. So I'll have these two here just to, since I'm cutting so much out of the back side, I don't want to mess with this door swing. The doors need adjusted, but they don't fit terribly. This world hasn't moved. So the more I cut out of it, I don't want it to move. So a couple extra braces. And then I'm going to have one more cross brace right at the back of the quarter windows, well, maybe 2/3 of the way back, before I have to get into the structure where we're mending everything together. And then I'll run braces here back from the, tied into it, but back from the front rail. And I'm not quite sure where I'm going to come with it either, to one of these. I think to this one. I can get a little bit of triangulation downhill to help with the movement. But again, it's supported in the back with those other screw jacks, so it shouldn't move at all. We've got screw jacks everywhere. The main, right in front of the spring mounts, is sitting on the scissor jack that's on the lift, so it's in a locked position, so we're all balanced off of that point. So that can't move. So it shouldn't go anywhere until we're done. So I'll finish up a few more of these braces in here and go from there.